At the beginning of the story, we see that a huge crowd of people gathers below the holy land of Spirit Mountain. A fortune teller is sitting at this place, and he has put up posters, and very deep things are written in the posters. Find your love and other half. Secure your fortune and wealth. No one knows luck better than me. And seeing such a huge crowd, the fortune teller is also surprised, and he is speaking to those people. There's no hurry. One at a time. And an old man is speaking to the fortune teller. Mr. Su, I have 18 concubines and over 30 children. Who should I pass my legacy to? But the fortune teller tells the old man, forget about it. None of those children are yours. And a cultivator is asking the fortune teller very hopefully, Mr. Su, I've been pretty close to the girl I like for half a year. Will we finally become a couple? And the fortune teller replies to the cultivator, young man, the girl you like will go to the grove behind Green Tea Peak tonight. You should go and take a look. This is the fortune teller, and the protagonist of this story. And he says about his fortune telling, my fortune telling is never off the mark. Then another man is asking the protagonist, Mr. Su, why can't I get a girlfriend? Am I unlucky in love? So the protagonist tells that man, listen, you'll meet that destined person 3 years later. I suggest you master sword fighting first. Then after finishing the fortune telling, the protagonist starts going somewhere else. And the system window opens in front of him, and he is going while looking at the system window. And in the system window he is checking his details, name, Su Li, gender, male, phase, the middle level of furnace, fate point, 250/1000, breakthrough possible when fate point reaches 1000 points, techniques, Yucheng technique, is layer, fate point, 380/5000, breakthrough possible when fate point reaches 5000 points. Today's list of quests to obtain fate points. 1. Tell Mr. Lu the truth about his numerous descendants despite his being infertile. 1 point. 2. Help Mr. Lin see the true colors of the girl he likes. 0.5 points. Up until 12:15 p.m., you have obtained 125 fate points. But when Suli sees the number of fate points, he gets disappointed and says, only 25 points? Looks like fortune telling isn't suitable for me anymore. Then Suli tells about himself, my name is Suli. In my previous life, I died from extreme happiness due to scoring too well in my college entrance examination. And then I came to this world. I became the 7-year-old war orphan, Suli. After that, I was somehow taken back to Yucheng Peak by that unreliable master of mine. I became her disciple. In less than 2 years, my master ran away. Then, I was finally granted a special power, but the thing is, and when Suli sees the system window, he gets extremely shocked. And it is written in the system window, the host has agreed to stay single for 1000 years while being bound to the system. And Suli is asking the system, hold up. What's this about staying single for 1000 years? When did I agree to this? Unbelievably, I can only advance my cultivation phases with fate points. And the system rubs salt on Suli's wounds and says, you can only leave up by obtaining fate points. And Suli is frustrated and he says, I may not be a genius, but I broke through 3 phases in 2 years. I can't even cultivate properly now. Suli gets very angry, and pointing towards a man he says to the system, the even more outrageous thing was, alright, let's leave cultivation aside for now. Aren't you a script system? Show me his script. But the system tells Suli, the host needs to fulfill conditions to read scripts. Before you do, you can only see the color of other scripts but not their contents. And Suli tries to remove the system window, but the system comes back again and says to Suli, please hold him by his chin and say, you've caught my attention, you little vixen, to start reading his script. And Suli says, are you serious? Who the heck would say that? Then Suli's attention goes to a girl and Suli is thinking, did you think that was all? I was saving the best for the last. This is the most precious gift my master left for me. My junior sister, Qianyun. We've been relying on each other since my master left. I accidentally fulfilled the system's condition, and I read Qianyun's golden script. By the way, the system only required me to touch her hand to read her script. It was a piece of cake. Qianyun's script was surprisingly simple. The front was completely empty. There was only one line on the last page. 1,000 years later, Qianyun kills her senior brother, Su Li. Holding his head, she attains enlightenment and ascends to immortality. And Chu Qianyun was very happy to see Su Li. And she says to Su Li, "Li, the disciple ceremony held every 10 years has started. We should get going." And Su Li is crying inside. But still he gets ready to go to the ceremony with Chu Qianyun. And at the same time he is thinking, "My dear God, what sin did I commit to make Qianyun want to kill me?" And as they go ahead, they see many disciples, and many masters are saying to those disciples, "Hey, young man. You look like you have potential. You're a martial arts genius who comes by once in 100 years. Why don't you come with me? Do you like sword fighting? The sword skills of Purple Chi Peak are the best in Spirit State. Would you like to learn from me?" And another man is asking, "Hello, young lady. I'm from Orange Peak. Do you hate men?" And seeing so many disciples, Su Li is saying, "The disciple ceremony this year seems pretty lively. I hope we can help Master recruit a good disciple." And then someone says, "She's here. The saintess is here. She never shows up at the disciple ceremony. Could she be here to take in a disciple?" And when Su Li looks back, a very beautiful saint is coming, who is looking very beautiful. And Su Li is looking at that saint. Seeing this, one is thinking, Jiang Ningxi is the saintess of Holy Land of Spirit. She's one of the 2 most talented disciples in Holy Land. Her status is only inferior to the elders of Holy Land. She holds the top spot among disciples. Just like the rumors say, the saintess' beauty is otherworldly. It's like first love. And then Su Li notices something, and he sees that there is a black fog over Jiang Ningxi's head, and Su Li is surprised to see this, and he is thinking, why is there a black fog around the saintess script? This is a first for me. And then suddenly the system window opens in front of Su Li. It opens, and Su Li is looking at the system. Save the saintess of Holy Land of Spirit, Jiang Ningxi's life. Quest time limit, 1 day completion reward, 500 fate points failure penalty, death of host. And on hearing this demand of the system, Su Li becomes stunted, and when Chu Qianyun sees Su Li's stunt face, she asks Su Li, "What, is he okay?" Su Li laughs and replies yes and says, "Someone was busy looking around and accidentally stepped on my foot. I'm alright." But Su Li thinks in his mind, this is the first quest given by the system. So, there's this function. Guess I found the way to earn fate points. Hold on. If I want to save the saintess' life, I need to read her script and find out what danger will befall her. Then Su Li asks the system, what do I need to do to read Jiang Ningxi's script? And the system asks Su Li. The system says something which shocks Su Li a lot. The system says to Su Li, please sex her to read her script. And Su Li says to the system, are you crazy? The saintess and her followers will blow me to smithereens. But the system threatens Su Li and says, if you don't do it, you'll die anyway and turn to dust. And now Su Li has completely given up after listening to the system, and he is thinking, I'll remember this, you damned system. Goodbye to this horrible life. Goodbye, Qianyun. And Chu Qianyun asks Su Li she is wondering where he is going? But Su Li does not give any answer to Chu Qianyun, and he goes in front. And he comes in front of Jiang Ningxi, and Jiang Ningxi is surprised to see Su Li in front of her. And then Su Li directly puts his face on Jiang Ningxi's boobs, due to which Jiang Ningxi also starts enjoying it. And Su Li is just waiting to see what is going to happen to him now. And then a hard slap falls on Su Li's face, due to which he falls away. And we see that Jiang Ningxi's servants catch Su Li, and they say to Su Li, how dare you molest the saintess? You have a death wish. And Su Li says to both of them, wait, it's not what you think. Listen to me, saintess. You're in danger. But no one is listening to Su Li's words, rather they are calling Su Li a wrong person, and they are talking among themselves, you're lusting for someone out of your league. I think you're the one who's dangerous. And the other man says, I'd love to pounce on the saintess too. And the crowd is saying, the last guy who disrespected the saintess had his cultivation removed completely. I wonder how they'll deal with him. and Qianyun is listening to their conversation. And from inside the crowd, Qianyun is looking at Suli. And when Suli sees Qianyun, he starts getting a little worried and he is thinking, I can't let Qianyun think I'm a pervert. System, open shop. Oh yeah? I forgot to mention that this trashy system has one good aspect. It has a robust shop. I can get anything I want from here. System, what can I exchange with 25 fate points? So the system tells, you can exchange it for a power boost of 1 minute. And Suli is in a hurry, so he does the exchange. And after the exchange is successful, Suli easily frees himself from those two girls, and he stands up. Suli's eyes turn white, and he moves his hand towards Jiang Ningxi. And Suli thinks, to prevent Qianyun from thinking I'm a lewd pervert. For my own survival. I'm sorry, saintess. And Jiang Ningxi's servant is scared and she is warning Jiang Ningxi. But Suli starts moving fast towards Jiang Ningxi, but Suli crosses Jiang Ningxi and catches Jiang Ningxi's new disciple. And the little girl is scared and Jiang Ningxi gets very angry on Suli, and she says to Suli, if you have any grudges, come at me. Let go of my new disciple. Now Suli warns those people that no one should come near me, and that little girl is crying. And Suli says to Jiang Ningxi, your life is in danger, saintess. I'm a fortune teller. Trust me. But no one is going to listen to Suli, and a man says to Suli, you're holding a little girl hostage. Stop making excuses. And the other man says, just be frank if you like the saintess. Let go of the kid. But Suli ignores their words and tells them about Jiang Ningxi. You like pears and hate eels. You also like to kick the quilt away when sleeping. Your hair sticks up when you wake up every day. Your favorite color is pastel pink. You walk with your left foot first. You like spirit animals, but they keep dying in your care. And Suli thinks, I didn't get slapped for nothing. I've read her script, and when Jiang Ningxi learns so many things about herself, she is surprised, and her servant is also surprised at how Suli knows so much about Jiang Ningxi. And Jiang Ningxi is thinking after listening to Suli, how could he know all these things that I've never told anyone? Can he really tell fortunes? Then Jiang Ningxi says to Suli, what do all those have to do with my disciple? Let her go. And Suli says it has everything to do with her. Your new disciple is the one who wants to harm you. She used an ancient secret technique to conceal her identity. She sneaked into the disciple ceremony to kill you. Am I right? Saintess of Darkman sect? But that little girl is crying and saying that I am very scared. And when Jiang Ningxi hears about that little girl, she is shocked, she cannot believe it. And the crowd around is also surprised, and a man says, that's impossible. How can this little girl be the saintess of Darkman sect? And Suli is looking at Qianyun and he is thinking, please believe me, Qianyun. I didn't molest her on purpose. I had my reasons, but now, I have to force this evil saintess to reveal herself. I'm running out of time, oh well. Here goes. And then the system warns Suli and says, warning. 5 more seconds remaining for the system prop. 5, 4, 3. And Suli has very little time, so he is about to attack the little girl with a dagger. And when Jiang Ningxi sees that Suli is about to attack her new disciple with a dagger, Jiang Ningxi moves forward to attack Suli. Also, the power boost that Suli got from the system is now over. And with that, an explosion also happens, due to which Suli falls far away. Then from that explosion, the smoke starts to slowly go away, and from inside that smoke, a 9-tailed black fox comes out. Mo Lan, saintess of Darkman sect. 9-tailed black fox clan. And she says, I didn't expect a random passerby would ruin my plans. I so nearly succeeded. And as soon as the crowd sees Mo Lan, all the men are now crazy about her. Blood is coming out of their noses. Just a while ago these people were calling Suli a pervert, but see for yourself how much of a pervert these people are. But then Mo Lan reacts very quickly and takes out a dagger. She wants to kill Jiang Ningxi, so she attacks, but Suli comes in front of Jiang Ningxi, and Suli takes Jiang Ningxi's attack on himself, because if Jiang Ningxi dies then Suli will also die. And when Qianyun sees that the dagger has entered Suli's stomach, she starts worrying for Suli. But now, taking advantage of this opportunity, Jiang Ningxi quickly attacks Mo Lan and injures her. But even now Jiang Ningxi's anger has not subsided, and so she takes out the sword and is about to make a dangerous attack on Mo Lan. But before Jiang Ningxi can attack, Mo Lan runs away. And seeing this, Jiang Ningxi gets surprised. What technique did she use to run away from here? But while leaving she says, "See you again, people of Holy Land of Spirit." Then we see that Jiang Ningxi goes to Su Li and puts his head in her lap, and she is talking to Su Li. "Mr. Su. This is the first time we've met. Why would you risk your life for me?" Then Su Li replies to Jiang Ningxi and says, "I can only live if you live." But Jiang Ningxi does not understand Su Li's words. And we see that both of Jiang Ningxi's servants have tears in their eyes, and one servant says, "It's true love. Mr. Su loves the saintess so much," and the other servant says, "This love is too touching." And now slowly Su Li's eyes start closing, and Su Li can see Chu Qianyun in front of him. And Su Li, while fainting, is saying to Chu Qianyun, "Qianyun, I'm not a pervert." And now Su Li has fainted. Then the scene shifts, and we see a beautiful view of a beautiful mountain, Yucheng Peak. Then Su Li's eyes open inside his room and he wakes up. But when he looks in front, Chu Qianyun is in front of him, who is sleeping there. And as soon as Chu Qianyun opens her eyes, Su Li wakes up completely fine. And Su Li is saying to Chu Qianyun that "You were very worried about me?" And Chu Qianyun has tears in her eyes, and she is very happy that Su Li has finally woken up and he is fine. And Su Li also starts wiping the tears from Chu Qianyun's eyes. But then Su Li remembers something, due to which he stands up suddenly. And seeing this reaction, Chu Qianyun is shocked, and she is unable to understand why Su Li is behaving like this. And Chu Qianyun asks Su Li what is wrong. Su Li replies to Chu Qianyun that he is feeling hungry. And hearing this, Chu Qianyun tells Su Li that "You scared me." Then she goes to get something to eat for Su Li, and while leaving she tells Su Li, "There's some porridge on the stove. I'll get it for you." And Su Li thanks Chu Qianyun. Then Su Li asks the system, "Is the saintess crisis resolved? Did I complete the quest?" So the system tells Su Li, "You have successfully saved the saintess of Holy Land of Spirit, Jiang Ningxi's life. Her script has returned to its original golden color, and is no longer black." And after listening to the system, Su Li gets relief, and he takes a sigh of relief and says, "This is great. I won't be dying then. I didn't expect the saintess script to be golden too. Looks like she's someone blessed with a good fate." The system scripts are divided into 7 colors: white, blue, green, cyan, red, purple, and golden. The color represents the person's luck. Normal people without any spiritual root only have white scripts. Only cultivators have scripts of different colors. Ever since the system came into effect, I've only seen Qianyun having a golden script. The saintess, Jiang Ningxi, is the second person to have this color. Having someone with a golden script only a life debt isn't too bad. 3 days later, the streets of Holy Land of Spirit. Su Li and Chu Qianyun are walking in the street, and Su Li is happy and he says, "Ha! I can finally come out for a stroll after recuperating." And as soon as the crowd sees Su Li, they all start talking about Su Li. "Look, it's that guy. That's Su Li from Yucheng Peak." And as Su Li listens to the crowd, he asks Chu Qianyun, "Hey, Qianyun. Is this my imagination? Why do I feel that people are pointing fingers at me and talking behind my back?" But Chu Qianyun does not answer Su Li. And they are going ahead, and the crowd starts talking about Su Li even more, and Su Li is listening to them. And one man says to another man, "Isn't he that pervert who tells the saintess fortune daily to spy on her?" And the other man says, "He's just after her looks and high cultivation level." And when Su Li looks at Chu Qianyun looks a little sad. Maybe she is thinking something. And Su Li gets a little nervous, and he says to Chu Qianyun, "I have nothing to do with that saintess, Qianyun. Please believe me." And Chu Qianyun gets confused. She is not able to understand whom to believe. But still she believes Su Li's words for now. And then a little girl is running very fast, and she collides with Su Li while running. And Su Li is also a little surprised to see that girl, and as soon as Su Li looks at that girl carefully, there's a golden script above that girl's head. And then Su Li remembers something and he says, the system quest distracted me from taking in a disciple. Now that there's someone with a golden script, isn't this a good opportunity? Then Suli says to that little girl in a gentle way, I should be the one apologizing. Are you hurt? You don't look like a disciple from the Holy Land of Spirit. Are you looking for a master? Why don't you come to Yucheng Peak with me? But the little girl starts crying and she is apologizing to Suli. And Suli tells her not to cry, but then Qianyun goes to that little girl and talks to her very lovingly and says, Don't cry, little girl. We don't bear any ill intentions. Why are you here alone? So the little girl tells Qianyun, I kept walking in a daze and ends up here unknowingly. I don't know where this is. Then Qianyun asks the little girl, Where is your family? So in reply the little girl says, I have no one. I'm all alone. And when Suli hears this, he is surprised and he is thinking, that's strange. People with a golden script should be very lucky. Why is she in such a desolate state? If only I could read her script. System, what's the condition for reading her script? But the system puts a strange demand in front of Suli, ding! Lift her up 3 times to read her script. And Suli starts looking at the little girl, then he thinks, I can't let such talent go to waste. Embarrassing myself doesn't matter. And Suli moves his hand forward and holds the little girl and lifts her 3 times. Then he puts her down, and seeing this the little girl is shocked and is not able to say anything. But she starts crying again. And Suli calms her down and says, And no, I'm not a pervert. Don't cry, little girl. I just wanted to cheer you up. Then the girl calms down and says to both of them, I know you're good people. This is the first time I've met someone who was so gentle with me, but I don't have a home or any money. I have nothing. I don't deserve your kindness. And Suli and Qianyun both are a little surprised to hear such things from the little girl. Then Suli tells the little girl, That's not true. You're such a good girl. And Qianyun asks the little girl, Are you willing to become our junior sister? And Suli says, We'd be fortunate to have you as our family. Can we have this good fortune today? And after listening to their conversation, the little girl also becomes happy and agrees to go with them. After this we see that all 3 of them start going towards their house. And the little girl falls asleep in Suli's lap and Suli is looking at the little girl and thinking, I didn't expect such an adorable girl would have such a painful past. Then the system starts telling Suli about that little girl, Luo Yinling. She possesses the rare silver-long bloodline. When she is 11, she becomes homeless and wanders around. She comes to Holy Land of Spirit by chance at the age of 12 and lives on wild vegetables and fruits. Due to her weak bloodline and hidden talent that doesn't show, no one in the Holy Land of Spirit takes her in when she is 13 years old. She leaves the Holy Land of Spirit and hides in the forest, living alone. 10 years later, her bloodline starts to emerge. With her increased luck, she obtains many opportunities. After 10,000 years, Luo Yinling survives the Great Tribulation and becomes a god. She's then known as Lady Silverlong. And Suli thinks, Yinling and Qianyun are both sweet girls, but they have golden scripts. Guess I can't judge a book by its cover. Then the scene shifts to east of Leaves State Darkmon sect base. And in this deserted place someone is shouting very loudly and saying, I won't forgive him. I'll make Suli pay dearly. After some time, Mo Lan calls a servant, and gives him a mission and says this guy's name is Suli, capture him alive and bring him back. Then the servant opens the scroll and sees the picture and asks Mo Lan, Your Highness, who's this guy? In response to this Mo Lan says, Don't ask unnecessary questions. Just go. And Mo Lan is thinking, I'll torture him when I get my hands on him. And she is imagining how she is going to punish Suli? And thinking that Mo Lan is getting very happy, but then the servant stops Mo Lan and she says, Your Highness. You're hurt and lost a tail. It's better to heal yourself in isolation. We'll stop this from leaking out. And Mo Lan says, Ahem. No. Let it be known that I got hurt. I'd like to see if Mou dares to come and kill me. Then the scene shifts to the cave of Mou, another saintess of Darkmon sect. From inside the cave, someone's loud screaming is coming, and from the voice it seems that someone is enjoying a lot, and she is saying, Ah. Harder. Ah. Faster. After seeing this, you must have understood what is happening here. But then a servant comes to that place, and on seeing the servant, the female nine-tailed fox leaves her enjoyment, and comes out wearing clothes. And she says to the servant, "You disrupted my rejuvenation. You better have urgent news for me." And the name of this female nine-tailed fox is Mou. And the servant tells Mou, yes. It's about Lan. She's badly hurt, and is looking for a man. And hearing this, Mou gets a little surprised, and she says, "Looks like her plan to assassinate the saintess of the Holy Land of Spirit failed. But why is she looking for a man?" Then the servant, after thinking something, says to Mou, "I think this is the best time to kill Lan once and for all. We should strike when she's weak." But Mou gets angry at the servant and says, "Are you teaching me what to do now?" And the servant gets scared seeing Mou's angry eyes. Then Mou says, "I secured my status by being meticulous. I won't make a move recklessly just because of some news about her getting hurt. You underestimate me, Lan." And the servant also agrees with Mou. And Mou thinks for a while, then she says, "But Lan wants to capture a man? Could he be her lover? Looks like Lan can't escape the fox demon's love complex. Hey, you know what to do, right?" So the servant says, "I know. I'll kill that guy and deal a blow to Lan's psyche." But Mou gets even more angry at the servant, and she starts beating the servant's head, and tells him that you don't know anything, and she tells, "Capture that man for me. After that, get me 100 or so female demons. I want Lan to watch her beloved getting tainted with her own eyes. I can't wait to see how she'll go nuts by then." And the servant likes Mou's plan very much. After this the set shifts, and we see a beautiful place, and Suli is looking towards the mountain, and is sitting on top of a rock. And then he sneezes and says, "Who's talking behind my back?" And we know who is talking about Suli. Then Suli says to the system, "Where's my reward, system? I've completed the mission. So where are my fate points?" So the system replies to Suli, "The system is undergoing upgrades. The rewards cannot be distributed at the moment." And as soon as Suli hears this from the system, he gets very angry at the system, and in an angry voice he says to the system, "You trashy system. I went all out to complete the quest. Are you making me work for free?" And then someone calls Suli by his name, and Suli looks back smiling, and he knows that this voice is of Qianyun. And we see that Qianyun has brought Luo Yinling with her. And when Suli sees Luo Yinling, he finds her very cute. An arrow enters his heart directly, and he thinks in his mind, "Oh my goodness! She's way too adorable." But then Luo Yinling starts crying, and she is apologizing to Suli for something. And Suli quickly goes to Luo Yinling and asks her, "Hey, what is it? Why are you crying?" "Don't cry, Yinling." And Qianyun says Li Yinling ran into some problems with Yichang technique. And Luo Yinling tells Suli, "It's already been a few days. Qianyun teaches me every day, yet I can't master it. I've disappointed you and Qianyun." And Suli says, "Oh, I see. I'm just glad you're not injured or feeling homesick. Take it easy with the cultivation. We don't expect you to become insanely strong or anything. Your happiness matters the most." At the same time Suli is thinking about Luo Yinling, "You're going to become Lady Silverlong anyway." Then Suli says to Luo Yinling, "You just need to stay cute. Nothing is more important than that." After some time all three of them come inside their house and Suli asks Luo Yinling, "So, where did you live previously, Yinling? Can you tell me?" And Suli is thinking while looking at Luo Yinling, the script doesn't reveal much about Yinling. It didn't mention her past at all. No wonder the requirement is merely to lift her up. Then Luo Yinling starts telling them about her past life and she says, "I grew up with my mother, and we've been living in the village. My mother treated me well, but she didn't allow me to go outside in new clothes. I had to dirty my face before I went out too. Be good, Yinling. Remember not to wash your face when you're outside." And Qianyun asks Luo Yinling why? But Luo Yinling also does not know anything. And Suli is thinking, it's not hard to understand given how pretty she is. Then Luo Yinling further says, "1 year ago, my mother left me a necklace and said she was going somewhere far, far away. She said she couldn't take me with her. The next day, she left. From that day onwards, I've never seen my mother. Because of the war, the village was no more. I didn't know where to go, so I could only follow the villagers. After that, I met a group of very, very bad men. And these bad people wanted to do something wrong with Luo Yinling. And after listening to all these things from Luo Yinling, Suli gets very angry and he stands up and starts abusing those people. Then he says to Luo Yinling, "What happened to you after that? It's a shame I wasn't with you and let you suffer." And Luo Yinling tells Suli, "I was fine. A very powerful lady saved me." And the lady who saved Luo Yinling told Luo Yinling, "It's too dangerous for you to travel alone, little girl. Let me point you a way. Head north all the way. You'll reach a very tall mountain that reaches the clouds. When you reach, look for you." And Qianyun says, "What did she ask you to look for, Yinling?" Then Luo Yinling says, "I was too shocked at that time. I lost consciousness before she finished speaking." And says to Suli, "It's all right. You've come to Yuchang Peak. This place starts with the word Yu, too. This is what we call fate." But then someone comes outside the door of Suli's house and calls from outside and says, "Is Mr. Suli at home?" And we see that Jiang Ningji has come here, and she is saying to Suli, "My apologies, Mr. Su. I'm here to offer my thanks." And now the black fog has been removed from Jiang Ningji's head. And Suli says to Jiang Ningji, "Don't worry about it. I'm glad to see that you're safe and sound." At the same time, Suli is very happy in his heart, and he is saying, "Wow, her script is sparkly golden after the black fog dissipated." Then Jiang Ningji says, "To thank you for saving my life, I prepared a gift. I hope you'll like it." And seeing so many expensive gifts, Luo Yingling's eyes start shining, and Suli is saying to Jiang Ningji, "Oh my. You shouldn't have, Ms. Jiang. Hall of Justice has sent me plenty of spiritual stones and pills. But thanks for being thoughtful." But Jiang Ningji is a little hesitant. Maybe she wants to say something to Suli, and she says, "I wanted to apologize to you too. I'm sorry that I." And then the system again gives Suli a strange mission, and tells Suli, detected that Jiang Ningji's script has a strong connection to the host's fate. Please put your arm around her waist and stare into her eyes for 10 seconds to read her script. And after listening to the system's demand, Suli thinks, it seems like she wants to apologize for something major. Will this cause Qianyun's misunderstanding to deepen? Maybe I shouldn't read it. But the system also has its trump cards, so it tells Suli, system notification, Jiang Ningji's script is related to Qianyun as well. Reading is highly encouraged. And what was to happen after this? Suli holds Jiang Ningji's waist, and seeing this, all 3 servants of Jiang Ningji get shocked. And Suli holds Jiang Ningji tightly and brings her close to him, and starts looking into her eyes. And this scene is very romantic. And he keeps looking into Jiang Ningji's eyes like this for 10 seconds. And Jiang Ningji is also looking into Suli's eyes. It seems that feelings for Suli have awakened inside Jiang Ningji. Then 10 seconds get completed and Jiang Ningji pushes Suli away from her, and while thinking something she says to Suli, "I can't accept you, Mr. Su. I only saw your eye discharge." And for a while there is an awkwardness between them. And Jiang Ningji starts blushing. And Suli is saying to Jiang Ningji, "Ah? Is it? Oh, you've misunderstood. I'm not." And then the system starts showing Suli Jiang Ningji's script, seeing which Suli is a little surprised, and the system tells Suli, Jiang Ningji, she has unbelievable luck after surviving the life and death situation. Within 10 years, she enters nascent soul and becomes the youngest cultivator to reach that phase. In her later cultivation, she finds the person she has been looking for and falls in love hopelessly. 1,000 years later, Jiang Ningji fights with Qianyun. For some reason, she kills her savior. And Suli gets shocked on hearing this. Then he holds both the hands of Jiang Ningji and very lovingly tells Jiang Ningji, "Ms. Jiang, it doesn't matter if you accept me or not. Only have one thing to ask of you." And Jiang Ningji also said, "What do you want to tell me?" So Suli says to Jiang Ningji, "If I happen to offend you in the future, can you please spare me?" And as soon as Qianyun hears this request of Suli, she gets very angry at Suli, and she is looking at Suli with angry eyes and asking him, "How do you plan to offend her in the future, Li?" And Suli gets very scared seeing Chu Qianyun angry. But Chu Qianyun starts leaving from here by giving an excuse. "Please take your time to entertain the saintess. I have chores to do, so pardon me for leaving." And Jiang Ningxi also says that I am also leaving from here. But Jiang Ningxi is blushing, and Suli's face is now about to cry, and he says to both of them, "No. You've both misunderstood. I don't mean it that way." But now both of them would not like to listen to Suli. Both of them leave from here. And Suli stands there just watching them go. Then Suli hugs Luo Yinling and starts crying, and while crying he says to Luo Yinling, "Yinling, you should stay away from women. Women are too complicated." And Luo Yinling gives a funny answer to Suli and says, "But I'm a woman too, Li." Next day, Book Pavilion, Holy Land of Spirit. Suli has a token in his hand and a smile on his face, and he thinks the saintess gave me some really practical gifts. There was even a token for the Book Pavilion. This couplet has a strong character. There are so many books. I'll pick some books about long clan cultivation for Yinling. Then I'll get 2 books for Qianyun too. I hope Qianyun isn't mad anymore when I get back. But then someone puts his foot in front of Suli's foot, due to which Suli's foot stumbles and he starts falling. But then something happens to Suli which Suli had never expected. His hand goes on the pants of a disciple, due to which the disciple's pants fall down. And the disciple gets very shocked at what has just happened to him. He is half naked. What the hell for a second? And soon Suli has pulled up her pants. And Suli is not able to understand what to say. Then he starts cleaning the dust, and touches her bump and apologizes to her. But he soon starts running away from there. It seems he is very embarrassed. Suli does not know that she is a girl, and seeing her running like this, Suli thinks, "I've already put her pants back on for her. Why did she still slap me? Oh well." This happened to fulfill the condition for reading the script of her fate. The system's quests are getting more and more ridiculous. And then a man comes behind Suli and he gets shocked seeing him, and that man says to Suli, "Some people die when they're 8 years old but are only buried when they're 80. I don't care about swordsmanship." And Suli says to that man, "You were the one who tripped me." And then the system window opens in front of Suli and the system says to Suli, "Script unlocked. Please read." And Suli says, "System, what's with this different treatment when it comes to men?" And this man's name is Zhao Xian, and he has a red luck script on his head. And he is also an addict. And Suli Zhao Xian's script reads, "Zhao Xian, red luck chief disciple of Spirit Sects Hall of Sword." He is also a direct disciple of the Holy Land of Spirit. Xian has great talent for swordsmanship, but his true weapon of choice is the spear. He wants to train in spear fighting but doesn't know how to tell his father, who's the master of the hall. So, he drowns his sorrows with alcohol and bottles up his true feeling. In the end, he can't choose between the two and gets stuck at core formation. People consider him a negative example from then onwards. Luckily, he has a younger sister who is blessed with golden luck. Her swordsmanship talent exceeds Zhao Xian's. His sister inherits the Hall of Sword and becomes the strongest Hall of Sword master in the history of Holy Land of Spirit, ultimately becoming the top female sword immortal. Zhao Xian finally lets go of his burdens and passes away. And after reading Zhao Xian's script, Suli thinks, "I accidentally molested his sister earlier. Should I help him? I'm not doing this for fate points. Absolutely not." Then Suli suddenly slaps Zhao Xian, and after getting slapped by Suli, Zhao Xian says to Suli, "Do you have a death wish? Not even my father has ever hit me like this." But Suli says to Zhao Xian, "Will you overcome your internal struggle and start picking up the spear after killing me?" And as soon as Zhao Xian hears Suli's words, he gets shocked and he asks Suli, "Who are you? How did you know?" Then Suli says to Zhao Xian like a divine man, "Have you been screaming that you don't want to practice swordsmanship? Do you feel lost in the Hall of Sword and can't figure out your true feelings? Do you feel uneasy because you can't face yourself?" And seeing Suli's diveness, Zhao Xian realizes himself to be a small man. And he asks Suli, "Why you? Who on earth are you?" Then Suli introduces himself to Zhao Xian and says, "I am Suli, a fortune teller. If you don't want to spend your life achieving nothing and being confused, come to me and I will point you to the correct path ahead." And now Xian starts reading the card. "My services include lockpicking, purchasing old spiritual tools and pill refining furnaces, Getino certifications, and fortune telling." Late at night Suli starts going towards his house, and while going he thinks, these books should be enough for Yinling to train for some time. Is Qianyun not asleep yet? And as soon as Suli goes inside the house, Qianyun is sitting in front of him, who has fallen asleep while waiting for Suli. And looking at Qianyun, Suli is saying, "Why didn't she listen to me? She waited for me to come back again. Qianyun has grown so much." And Suli's attention goes towards Qianyun's boobs, which are really very big. And seeing them, Suli's nose starts bleeding and he says she developed well too. And then Qianyun wakes up and starts smiling looking at Suli. And Suli is apologizing to Qianyun for waking her up. Then Qianyun says to Suli, "It's fine. You haven't eaten yet, have you? I'll go heat up the food." But Suli refuses and holds Qianyun's hand and says to her, "It's all right. I think it's fine this way." And Qianyun gets a little surprised and asks Suli why. And Suli says, "Because you look so ravishing that I feel hungry." What does it mean that Suli is saying this to Qianyun? Does she want something else? Then the scene shifts to the next day, Hall of Sword, Holy Land of Spirit. Zhao Xian is talking to a servant. "Is this the intel that you've gathered on Suli?" So the servant replies yes to Zhao Xian. And Zhao Xian has asked for complete information about Suli, and he is reading about Suli, eldest disciple of Yuchang Peak. 8 years ago, Long Yueqing, the most beautiful woman in the world, ran away. She left Suli and Qianyun to fend for themselves. He frequently does fortune-telling for common folks and outer disciples at the foot of the mountain. The reviews are positive. He seems to have a crush on the saintess. When he has nothing to do, he divines the saintess' preferences and personality. This caused him to become a role model for perverts. 7 days ago, he foresaw that the saintess was in danger and shielded her from the stab. He saved the saintess. He seems unreliable. Do I really want to bet my future on someone like him? Then the servant asks Zhao Xian, "Mr. Zhao, is there something special about this man named Suli?" So in reply Zhao Xian tells the servant, "This man has attracted my interest. He's no simple person. Maybe he'll become the most important person in my life." And as soon as the servant hears this from Zhao Xian, he gets very shocked and he thinks, attracted his interest? Not simple? Most important person? Is this Suli going to become the future mistress of the Hall of Sword? And then Zhao Xian's sister comes to that place, and she is the same girl whose pants Suli had taken off by mistake. And she tells Zhao Xian, "Xian, I need you to beat up a guy for me." And Zhao Xian asks Lingxue, "Who do you want me to beat up, Lingxue? Who offended you?" So Lingxue says, "A rude ruffian. I don't care. You must beat him up for me." And Zhao Xian says, Sure. What's his name, and where is he from?" And Lingxue says to Zhao Xian, "I don't know who he is, but I drew a portrait of him. Xian, you must find him and beat him up." And Zhao Xian says, "I will. Don't worry." And while leaving from here Lingxue says to Zhao Xian, "I'll leave this to you, Xian." And as soon as Zhao Xian sees the drawing made by Lingxue, he gets very shocked. How will he know who this man is from this? And Zhao Xian's mouth remains open. How the hell can I tell who this is? Back of Yuchang Peak. Suli is resting on Qianyun's lap, and Luo Yinling is laying fruits for him. And everyone needs so much happiness which Suli is living right now. And he thinks, what peaceful days. It would be even better if there weren't that ominous ending to Qianyun's fate. And then the system tells Suli, "System upgrade completed. Received fate points. Please accept them, host." The host completed the quest of saving the saintess. Awarded fate points, 500. As the host has changed Jiang Ningxi's fate, her heavenly Tao accomplishment will be limitless. A reward of 50,000 fate points is given to the host. And seeing the system notification, Suli gets up, and he starts leaving from here. And seeing this, Qianyun gets a little surprised and she is asking. Then Suli tells Qianyun, I feel that I'm going to have a breakthrough. I'm going to isolate myself and train. And Luo Yinling asks Qianyun, will Li be alright? And Qianyun tells Luo Yinling, he's about to break through. Let's stand guard for him. Then Suli is looking at his points in the system and he is saying, it turns out that besides quest rewards, I can get loads of fate points from changing others' fate. The more talented they are, the higher the fate points awarded. So, this means I should lend a helping hand readily. Then, the fate points will come flooding in. I'll use these fate points to break through. I'll just earn more after I use it up. This is great. And Suli sits down to do cultivation. Then Suli makes a breakthrough and a very bright light starts shining in the sky. And all this can be seen from a distance. And seeing Suli's breakthrough, Luo Yinling says, is that Li's breakthrough? It's amazing. And Qianyun says, yes. Li has always been the best. Then we see some people, they also see Suli's breakthrough. But they do not know that the one who has made this breakthrough is Suli. And they are saying, is that a long's roar? What is that? I see a vision of a long and foams. And then we see some masters, they too are very shocked and they say, a heavenly vision. Could it be? She's back? And in a short time the sky clears, and Suli has successfully made the breakthrough. And he gets happy and Luo Yinling and Qianyun also come there, and Suli stretches his body and says, is this the cultivator's fourth phase, which is known as refined furnace? My whole body feels invigorated. This is terrific. Then Suli says to both of them, Qianyun, Yinling, you came just at the right time. I've progressed to a refined furnace. And Qianyun says to Suli, congratulations, Li. You were awesome. And Luo Yinling says, even the sky changed colors when you broke through. And Suli laughs and says, haha. You must be exaggerating. But then they sense someone's spiritual power. And we see that all three masters have come to that place. And the first master says, young man, you're Suli, the one who saved the saintess, right? I've talked to you using divine senses before. We've become soulmates since then. I'm the second eldest of the Hall of Pill. Here's a little gift. Has your master returned? And the second master says, I've traveled across 9 states with your master. We're in deep friendship. You must tell me if she's back. And all three have gifts in their hands which they have brought to give to Suli's master. But Suli is nervous because they don't know that the power that was just shown is because of Suli's breakthrough. And Suli is not able to understand anything, and the first master says to Suli, ahem. Pardon us, young man. We saw a magnificent phenomenon over Yucheng Peak, and guessed that your master had come back. So, we rushed over hoping to meet with her. But Suli very politely tells them, I'm sorry, but my master hasn't returned. And on hearing this, all three are shocked and say, not yet returned? But the heavenly vision just now was the resonance between heaven and earth caused by Yucheng technique. Only your master can do that. That's right. Don't think you can fool us. And Suli tells them, that was me just now. And on hearing this all three get even more shocked. Then the second master says to Suli, what phase are you in now? Then Suli hesitatingly tells him, I just got to the refined furnace. And on hearing this all three of them get very upset, and they think, he's bluffing. Getting to a nascent soul may not even trigger such a vision, not to mention a refined furnace. He looks all innocent with his good looks. I didn't expect him to be such a liar. Then the first master takes out a crystal and says to Suli, enough talk. Let's test you out. And when the first master checks Suli's level, all three are surprised, and the third master is saying he's really at the middle level of a refined furnace. And the first master says, so, what's with that phenomenon then? Then Suli says to all three, alright, I won't hide this from you. My master was indeed back, but she left again after a short while. And Suli thinks, they seem like they won't leave until I admit it. After listening to Suli, the first master says to Suli, as expected. You should have said so sooner. Next time, You must inform us when your master is back. Then Suli says yes to them. Then all three masters leave from here. And as soon as they leave, Suli takes a sigh of relief and thinks, Master, you frivolous woman. How many admirers do you have? And Luo Yinling asks Suli, Li, why were they here for Master? Then Suli tells Luo Yinling about Master and says, Yinling, our Master is known as the most beautiful woman in the world of cultivation. So, she has many fanatic admirers. After you grow up, you'll surely have a lot of persistent admirers too. But don't worry. I'll chase them away for you. But then Zhao Xian comes to that place and Zhao Xian says to Suli, Hey Suli! It's me, Zhao Xian from the Hall of Swords. We met 2 days ago. And Suli says, Oh yes. I remember. You're the guy who wanted to switch to spear fighting. And then Zhao Xian notices Luo Yinling and Qianyun, and they both look very beautiful to him. And Zhao Xian thinks, I didn't expect the disciples of Yuchang Peak to be so outstanding in looks. The beauty can be considered top-notch in the Holy Land. Why haven't I heard of them, though? Then Suli says to Qianyun and Luo Yinling, I have something to do here, please carry on with your training. And they both leave. And Suli says to Zhao Xian, Since you came to me, have you made your decision? And Zhao Xian says smilingly, I want to take up spear fighting. Point me the way, Li. But then the system says to Suli, the host influenced Zhao Xian and changed his life course. Rewarded 3,000 fate points. Suli thinks his life changed? Just like that? And the system tells Suli, Zhao Xian, Red Luck eldest disciple of Hall of Sword. His essay My Father, the Hall of Sword Master won the Best Literature Award in Hall of Sword. Zhao Xian was once confused, lonely and helpless. However, he chooses to wield the spear under the guidance of Suli from Yuchang Peak. 1 month after visiting Suli, Zhao Xian breaks his sword bone to start over. The heavens favor him. He mistakenly enters a frigid peak in the Holy Land of Spirit, and finds a book about spear fighting. In only 10 years, his spear fighting skills reach the peak of core formation. But during a mission, he encounters the best spear wielder of the Fiend sect. Zhao Xian has a chance to retreat, but in order to understand the heavenly Tao of spear fighting through life and death, he chooses to go forth and dies in battle. Even if he dies because of this, Zhao Xian is grateful to the person from Yuchang Peak who helped him make the decision to switch to the spear. And as soon as Suli hears the system's words, he gets shocked and thinks, this ending is worse than the previous one. And Suli gets a little nervous and says to Zhao Xian, Do you really want to give up on the sword? I feel that swordsmanship isn't that bad, after all. But as soon as Zhao Xian hears this, he is shocked and says, Are you doubting my resolve, Li? If that's the case, I'll destroy my sword bone right here and right now. With this, I swear to only wield the spear in this life. And on hearing this, Suli stops Zhao Xian from doing that and says, Wait, Zhao Xian. I believe you. Don't do that. But Zhao Xian does not listen to Suli, and Suli says to Zhao Xian, Aren't you too hasty? I can feel the pain by just listening. And the system says to Suli, Ding. Because of what the host said, Zhao Xian destroyed his sword bone 1 month in advance. Rewarded 1,000 fate points to the host. Then Suli tells Zhao Xian, Now that you've done this, please go back first. I'll give you a peerless spear technique later. So Zhao Xian asks, Why can't you give it to me now? But Suli says that the time has not come yet. And hearing this, Zhao Xian thinks, this calm determination and enigmatic attitude. Could I have understood something incorrectly? He isn't unreliable. On the contrary. He's a wise hermit. Then Suli asks Zhao Xian, In the future, you'll have a fatal encounter with a very strong opponent. Do you know what you need to do? In response to this, Zhao Xian says, I know. I'll fight him to the death and understand the true essence of spear fighting. I absolutely get what you're saying, but Suli says to Zhao Xian, Hey. Hold on. When did I ask you to fight to the death? You misunderstood completely. On the other hand, we see the scene of Zhao Xian's house, where his mother, father and Lingxue are sitting and having lunch. And Zhao Xian's mother says that why has Zhao Xian not come yet? But then a servant comes running to them in panic and tells them, Mr. Zhao, something terrible happened. Xian destroyed his innate sword bone. And as soon as Zhao Xian's father hears this, he cannot believe it, and he gets very angry. But then Zhao Xian comes to that place and tells them, I'm sorry for disappointing you, father and mother. I've decided to give up the sword and take up the spear. I won't change my mind. And Zhao Xian's mother gets a big shock and she starts fainting. And Zhao Xian's father gets very angry and he tells Zhao Xian, You imbecile! Look what you've done! How foolish of you! But then Lingxue stands up and says, Big brother, I am going to take your revenge. But Zhao Xian is trying to stop Lingxue and is asking her where are you going, and after some time, Lingxue stands outside Suli's house and shouts loudly and says, Come out, you bastard from Yichang Peak. My brother broke his sword bone right after he left this place. You must have instigated it. And then Suli opens the door and comes out and says to Lingxue, Ms. Zhao, perhaps you have misunderstood. And as Lingxue sees Suli, she remembers the old things. And now she is even more angry because she has got a chance to take revenge for the past. So she calls Suli a pervert, and the director attacks Suli to kill him. But Suli easily dodges Lingxue's attack. And Lingxue attacks Suli again and says to him, You pervert! You caused my brother to lose his sword bone. And you? I'll kill you! And Suli says to Lingxue, Hey! Since when am I a pervert? Also, your brother merely chose the path he wanted. But Lingxue does not want to listen to anything Suli says and she attacks Suli again. But this time Suli just moves his hand forward, due to which Lingxue's sword collides and moves away. And we see that Lingxue starts falling, and seeing this Suli moves his hand forward to save Lingxue from falling. But by mistake Suli catches Lingxue's clothes, due to which Lingxue's clothes get torn and half of her clothes get torn. And her big oranges start appearing. And as soon as Lingxue feels this, she starts covering her body right there and says to Suli, Ah! You pervert! How dare you tear my clothes? What are you doing? And Suli understands Lingxue and says, It was an accident. If you hadn't been slashing at me, I wouldn't have blocked with so much might. I tried to stop you from falling. But Lingxue does not want to listen to anything Suli says, and she sits down and says, Only my mother has seen my body so far. Yet you saw everything now, you pervert. I'm tainted. And Suli says to Lingxue, That's not true. I didn't see anything. Stop crying. Our priority now is to get you a new set of clothes. Your clothes are torn. Everyone will see your body if you keep wearing it. And Lingxue says, It's all your fault. Take responsibility. Then Suli says, Yes, it's my fault. I'll get you a new set of clothes. And Suli goes to get clothes for Lingxue, and Lingxue thinks, What if he doesn't come back? Then, how am I supposed to go home? Damn that pervert. Will he just leave me here? After some time Suli has brought clothes for Lingxue, and Lingxue is changing now. And Suli asks Lingxue, Hey, are you done changing? Then Lingxue changes her clothes and comes out. But she finds the outfit a bit small, but Lingxue looks very sexy. And Suli tells Lingxue, I didn't expect Qianyun's clothes would fit you. But still Lingxue shows her sword to Suli and tells him, You don't think that you've made up for what you've done just because you got me some clothes. You ruined my brother's sword bone, and have twice. You don't look like a bad guy, but I have to kill you. And Suli raises his hand and says to Lingxue, Ah? But I didn't. Please calm down, Ms. Zhao. And Suli thinks, Oh yeah. I wonder if Zhao Xian breaking his sword bone has affected Zhao Lingxue's fate in any way. I should look for a chance to take a peek. But then the system again puts a strange demand in front of Suli and says to Suli, Ding. You need to pinch her cheek to read her fate. And Suli thinks, You're getting ridiculous, system. Thank God I just need to pinch her cheek. She has a bad impression of me already. Doing this won't matter. Then Suli pinches Lingxue's cheek and says lovingly to her, That's enough. Your face will get all wrinkly if you keep getting mad. And Su Li comes close to Lingxue, and Lingxue calms down a bit after seeing Su Li near her. And then the system starts telling Su Li about Lingxue. Zhao Lingxue. Zhao Qianyun breaks his sword bone and takes up the spear because of Su Li. In the end, he dies at the hands of the spear fiend. To avenge him, their father dies too. Zhao Lingxue cultivates diligently, and reaches the ascension phase. She becomes the top female sword immortal. She swears to get revenge for her father and brother. She hates Su Li for what he has done. After she gets her revenge, she finds Su Li. She proposes that if he can withstand 3 of her blows, then she'll consider that they're even. And after reading Lingxue's script, Su Li thinks, what? Is that all? Did I manage to take her blows and resolve this grudge? Why does the script always run out at these crucial points? And Lingxue thinks he has seen my body and touched me so intimately. Will I have no choice but to marry him? But he's actually quite handsome. And as soon as Lingxue thinks this, she starts blushing, and while leaving from here she tells Su Li, I'll be waiting for you at the Hall of Sword. And Su Li tries to stop Lingxue, but Lingxue is not going to listen. She goes away. But Su Li thinks, wait, Lingxue. Why would you be waiting for me? Do you think I'll go there to die? I won't ever step foot in the Hall of Sword in my life. And then Luo Yinling comes to Su Li crying and says to him, Li, this is bad. Come and take a look at Qianyun. And as soon as Su Li hears this, he is shocked and he asks Luo Yinling what happened to Qianyun. Then the scene shifts and we see Su Li's house. It seems that Qianyun is sick and Su Li is putting something big in Qianyun's mouth. But he is actually feeding something to Qianyun, and Su Li says to Qianyun, be good, Qianyun. This is good for replenishing your lost spiritual energy. Sick on it for a while more. Then Qianyun says to Su Li that I am feeling sleepy, so Su Li says to Qianyun, go to sleep. I'll stay by your side. And Luo Yinling asks Su Li, Li, is Qianyun sick? So Su Li says, don't worry. She's not sick. She just had a breakthrough. She went from qi refining to refined furnace. So, she needs a lot of spiritual energy to fill her sea of qi. That was the reason for her sudden weakness. She just needs to rest for a few days. Listen, Yinling. If Qianyun tries to harm me in the future, will you help me? And hearing this, Luo Yinling gets a bit surprised, and she says, let me think. Then Su Li is thinking, whenever I think of Qianyun's ultimate fate of killing me and ascending to immortality while holding my head, I get shivers down my spine. If I can convince Yinling to take my side, I might have a better outcome. And Luo Yinling says to Su Li, Li, I don't think Qianyun would be that mad at you. But if that day really comes, I won't let Qianyun harm you. And Su Li says, oh Yinling, you're the best. But Luo Yinling says something due to which Su Li falls down, and Luo Yinling says, even so, you have to apologize to Qianyun. She must be mad for some reason. And Su Li says to Luo Yinling, of course I'll do that. And Su Li thinks, but the scary thing is I don't know why she's mad. It must be something that I can't resolve with just an apology. Then Luo Yinling hugs Su Li and tells him, don't worry, Li Qianyun likes you so much. She'll forgive you for sure. And Su Li says, all right, I believe everything you say. And Su Li thinks, I finally understand the hype about having a daughter. Her understanding temperament heals my heart. Then Su Li remembers the past when they were young, and Su Li said to Qianyun, say, why don't you marry me when you grow up? And Qianyun was not that smart at that time, and she asks Su Li, what does marry mean? So Su Li tells Qianyun, it means we'll be together with each other forever. And Qianyun says, but will you not want me someday? And Su Li said at that time, no way. If I abandon you one day and fall for another girl, you can chop my head off. And Qianyun is seeing these past memories as a dream while sleeping. Then Qianyun starts taking Su Li's name in her sleep, and then Su Li comes and hugs her and says, don't be scared, Qianyun. I'm here. And Qianyun asks Su Li, Li, will you abandon me? So Su Li replies, why would I do that? I'll be with you till the end of times. Don't worry, Qianyun. And Qianyun says, all right. I'll take your word for it. A few days later. And now Qianyun has recovered all its energy. And Suli is resting on Qianyun's lap and he says to Qianyun, I'm so glad that you recovered, Qianyun. And then a bird comes flying to that place. It has a gift for Suli from the sect. There is a notification, which he gives to Suli. And Suli catches the notification of the sect and is saying, I haven't heard from the sect for some time. Is there some major event? And Qianyun he asks Suli what is written in it. Suli tells him, they want Yinling to take part in the battle of fresh blood that will be held 5 months later. After some time Luo Yinling is having lunch, and she asks Suli what is written in it. Is this the battle of fresh blood? What's that? So Suli tells Luo Yinling, the new disciples of the sect will battle each other to showcase their cultivation results. It is normally held 4 months after the new disciples start training and 1 month before the sect tournament. If there are any outstanding outer disciples, they'll be recruited as inner disciples of the peaks and halls in the Holy Land of Spirit. Other than that, if an inner disciple is remarkable, they will be taken in as a true disciple or a direct disciple. If a disciple from any of the peaks wins the battle, this disciple will be recognized as the leader of the young generation. They will get an endless supply of cultivation resources. There will also be all sorts of rewards. To put it simply, there are many benefits. Just know that the battle of fresh blood affects one's rewards, reputation, and promotion. And Luo Yinling says, do I have to take part in it? I don't know anything yet. I'll embarrass you both. And Qianyun understands Luo Yinling and says, don't stress yourself out. It's just simple dueling. It won't be dangerous at all. Even if you get eliminated in the first round, you're still our precious junior sister. And then Suli gets a notification from the system and the system says to Suli, ding! Detected an update on Luo Yinling's fate. If you wish to read it, you have to complete the quest of feeding her. And Suli thinks, an update at such timing? Is something going to happen to Yinling during the battle of fresh blood? I have to take a look. Then Suli feeds Luo Yinling with his own hands and says, eat up, Yinling. Don't worry. I'll always be here for you. And Luo Yinling also eats. Then the system says to Suli, ding! You can now read Luo Yinling's fate. And as soon as Suli reads Luo Yinling's fate, he gets shocked. Then he stands up and Qianyun asks Suli what is the problem. So Suli tells her, I'm fine. It's nothing. Please carry on with your meal. I'm done. Then Suli starts leaving and while leaving he is thinking, how can this be? Why is Yinling's fate like this? And the system has told Suli that, Luo Yinling, on the 16th day Luo Yinling comes to the Holy Land of Spirit. Tomorrow, the remnant of the ancient fiend Long's soul happens to awaken. Yinling will be possessed by the fiend Long.